Welcome to Uncle Jimmy's podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation.
What is up, everybody joining us today? We're live on YouTube and Facebook. We are back. We are back and going. We were away for a couple weeks. As always, life gets in the way, but we're making it back. We're going to get back every week. We got my favorite Maddie. Maddie's here. Maddie! Big shout out to Maddie. Just had to rub that in Pete's face. So tonight, we're basically going to be talking about the whole of you, right? Balancing mental and physical health in a world of medication. So we live in a world that taught us to split ourselves in two. The mind in one corner, the body in the other, as if they were strangers instead of lifelong partners. We medicate the storm inside our heads, sometimes without ever asking what the rain is doing to the rest of us. This isn't about blaming doctors or dismissing the very real relief that medication can bring. This is about something deeper. The conversation nobody sits us down to have, the one that says you are whole. And what heals one part of you must never be allowed to quietly destroy another. So we're here tonight. We got my favorite panel. We got a special guest joining us. We're going to have our live, right? Our regulars. We got Maren here. We got Pete. We got Maddie, who is the host of the Voice of the Voiceless.
Right.
Co-host, as Pete likes to says, but I like to call her the host. And then we got my good friend, Pete's good friend, and hopefully everybody's favorite new friend, Massimo. Massimo's joining us. He's going to be on. He invented the sober method. So we're excited tonight. I'm excited, right? Everybody's here. We're all having fun. So everybody, starting with Maren, over to Pete next, Massimo, Maddie, introduce yourselves and let everybody know what's going on.
Absolutely. So I'm Maren Acosta. I am the host of Unapologetically Maren, the Cornbread Chronicles, and recently, actually just dropped yesterday, also a co-host on The Truth Table. So I kind of just dove into this world, just about 3 or 4 months ago, but I am taking it by storm, and it's really just been changing my life. It's been the most freeing thing I have ever experienced, to be able to have a safe space for people to share their stories, and to be able to, just to be able to listen, and just to allow them to speak and to share. And I'm so glad to be a part of this team too, you guys. And I feel like we're just kind of breaking the stigma together.
Right. Well, y'all already know me. I'm Pete from Pete vs. Society, also the host of... Here we go with the sound effects. You want to do like a bow too, start bowing in the chair and everything for you too. Also,
the crowd's going wild for Pete. What can I say? Everybody's favorite Pete's here. The crowd right. just can't. All right, Pete's up next. Pete, who are you, and what is it that you do? Pete is the host of Pete vs. Anxiety Pod. But what else do we do, Pete?
Well, that's pretty much what we do, man. We talk mental health. I also co-host Voice of the Voiceless with Maddie down there as well. It just asking the question, hey, how's your mental health, guys? You all know where to find me. Not much else to say.
Now we got next our special guest this week, who's going to be joining us whenever he can. Massimo. Massimo came into my life through the great pod match. We actually talk, we text a couple times a week, check in on each other. It's awesome. He came on, as I said, to the podcast as a guest, but he left his family. So, and that's one thing I hold close to my heart, Massimo, is making sure that people that come on the show, right, that you're not just coming on for views and clicks, right, that we keep that connection and we become friends, because I believe that in this world of podcasting, when we all come together, right, we got 5 different communities here, but tonight, we're joining all together to become one, right, for the listeners. And I'm so excited to have you on, Massimo. It's a pleasure, and it's an honor to have you on. So let people know about you and where they can find you and what it is that you do.
Well, thank you. That introduction is really awesome. I'm Massimo Rigatti, and I'm the creator of the Sober Method. And that's an alternative or an add on to some of the other methods out there because not everything works for everybody. So, this is an alternative. It is what really worked for me. And so I packaged it up, and that's what I teach. And I came into this community originally about a year ago. I was interviewed by Pete, and we had a fantastic time together, and
Amazing
we stayed
time.
in touch and I constantly would tell Pete, if anyone ever cancels on you, you just call me up. I'll be on the show for you. So you can keep doing your live. I'm there. And then I was lucky to be interviewed by you, Jimmy, here recently, and we've kept in touch regularly since, and I've really appreciated that. And I feel really welcome in this community, and I'm just looking to make a difference. And I'm super excited to be here and hope that I can continue to make an impact.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're excited to have you. And I tell people, right, Wednesdays we're getting together, right? We usually try to keep it to an hour, right? And if anybody else wants to, you guys can pop off when you can after an hour. But we're just going to keep going, right? I think we're just going to keep it going. We're not going to say we're going to go 7 to 8 every week, right? We're just going to come on and have the conversations. Maybe it lasts 24 hours. Maybe it lasts 6 days. Who knows? But we're just going to have the conversations. I know if Pete has his way, Pete would just stay live and just keep going, right?
That's right.
Pete doesn't sleep. Pete and I are officially looking for a sponsorship from Red Bull because we live off of Red Bull.
That's right.
Red Bull,
That's right,
hear
man.
me. We need you. So up
Amen,
next,
Red Bull. Come on.
up next is the reason why I myself started Mental Health Mondays on my podcast. Is my true good friend, the one, the only, the host of the Voice of the Voiceless, Maddie Andrews, my favorite. As everyone knows, everyone has to point it out in the chat. Oh, Jimmy's favorite. She is my favorite. Maddie,
Jimmy's the one that points out yourself, so you better stop. Okay?
Maddie came into my life. Maddie came into my life, and we had this conversation, right? And I was new to interviewing people on the podcast, and after I spoke with her and learned about what she was living with, I said to myself, you know what? This is a powerful cause. She is a powerful woman. Everything she's gone through, I looked into, what she was dealing with her bipolar, schizo, and looking at her, right, and seeing that she pushes through every day, right? And the conversation that we had, everything she's been through, but again, she still gets up every day, puts a smile on. She may have some tough moments, but not bad days. So that's why I have Mental Health Mondays, is because of Maddie. And it's powerful. And she's the reason why that Mental Health Mondays on Uncle Jimmy's podcast is basically, it should be Maddie Andrews Monday, right?
Oh, geez.
So Maddie, introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, Pete. My name is Maddie. Thank you for that, Jimmy. I know Pete is just squirming in his chair right now. I am Maddie Andrews. I am a mental health advocate, mental health professional, master's of social work student, nonprofit founder, all the wonderful things. But I wouldn't be doing any of that if it wasn't for my own lived experience living with schizoaffective bipolar type, PTSD, anxiety, and OCD. It drives me. It gives me purpose. I'm in recovery and I love it. And my purpose in life is to give that recovery back to other people. And one way I do that is by hosting Voice of the Voiceless with Pete. We exemplify the stories of that may not otherwise be heard. It can be found on all streaming platforms, drops on Saturdays. And then my nonprofit is J&E Support Group. We are an advocacy nonprofit that also offers support groups. We can be found anywhere on the internet. Our website is jesupport.org, and we would love for you to check us out and support what we do.
So we're going to get into it now, right? And we're just going to go around the room as we ask these questions and get everyone's take on it. No, it's not the right answer. It's not the wrong answer. It's your answer. So a big thing I do want to say is we're not dismissing medication, from a professional. I believe myself, I've been on medication almost off and on 16 years. It's helped me. It's helped me tremendously. And I haven't had the side effects that Maddie has talked about. On some other medications, I've had some side effects that I didn't like. But we're going to get into that today, and that's what we're going to talk about. when you actually have to get to the point, right, of choosing between my physical health and my mental health, right? And that's a tough thing. That's a tough thing because when you're struggling, you're down and out. If you have to pick one or the other, it's almost like, okay, here we go again, right? Especially in the world of mental health. So the first question I'm going to ask is, right, why do so many people feel forced to choose between being mentally stable or being physically well? Maren?
For me, it's almost like it's easier for me to dismiss my physical health. I have a lot of physical ailments. I have a lot of things I do suffer from physically as well. But I can't even, if my mental health is not controlled, and which I am also controlled by medication, have been since I was 13. I'm 45. If my mental is off, I am off, and I cannot control or contain or live a healthy life within my own head. So I always felt like I had to choose my mental because I can't even begin to think about my physical or think about anything else if I'm not physically capable to mentally. So, and I know I can't. I've been without medication. I've lost my insurance because of had to medically retire, and so finding out how much medication was without health insurance. I mean, one of my medications is over $1,000 a month, and there's just no way. So I've had to suffer without it a little bit here lately, and it's not been pretty. And I had to figure out how to get right back on because I literally cannot function. I can make myself live through some physical ailment, but it's been really hard for me to make myself continue positively with when my mental health is so far gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Pete, what do you think, pal?
I'm thinking that, it's funny we live in the greatest country in the world, but we can't afford to we have to make that choice between your mental stability or your physical health, because a lot of the side effects that come with some of these, it's like it's a constant up and down yo-yo battle. If you watch a lot of these medicine commercials, in fact, watch them really closely to see what one follows the other one, because they're like, oh, listen, hey, here's all these side effects we're adding with this one, but hey, look, great, we got this great one coming right next to it that's going to cover all those other things that we just said on the last commercial. And it's really alarming that's how it works. So like big pharma is got it, like, pretty much on lockdown now. And like Maren said, it costs $1,000 for medications. Like, I know I take Ozempic for my diabetes, and let me tell you, that's insane. It's like $1,000. That's like a house payment almost for most people, that you have to put into these things. But then you have to pay all these other bills, and then it's like, well, you have to have insurance in this country. But then at the same time, it's so expensive. It's like now you have to decide what you want, and then sometimes your insurance doesn't cover it too. That's the other thing I don't get. Is like, to me, it's a little confusing. It's like now you're making me choose between my mental state of mind or my physical health, because either way, I still can't run with either one of them, and it's a balancing act. Like Maren was saying, she's got to balance a little bit, and Maddie's situation's a little different. Hers, she needs these things to keep herself going, and things like that too. To me, it's really crazy. It makes no sense to me. It really doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, and Maddie's thing too, right? And we're gonna get to Maddie, after Massimo, but Maddie's thing too, the crazy thing is the lithium toxicity, right? Is because of a lack of not anything on Maddie's part, but the doctors not monitoring her situation, right?
Yeah.
And the problem becomes, how do you put so if you're a doctor and you put someone on the medication and say you have to take this, right? And doesn't tell you continuously, hey, you got to come in, we got to check your levels this week, this week, this week, right? That's the doctor's job to say, hey, this is what's going on. Until, right, Maddie didn't know there was a problem until she ends up in the hospital and she has to learn everything over again because of the lithium toxicity. So, Massimo, what do you think, pal?
Well, I'm kind of with Pete on a lot of what he just said, but I'm mixed bipolar, but I have reached a point about 17 months ago where I no longer take any medication.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
I've been able to completely keep myself in check with everything else that I'm doing. And that started with a kind of unconventional approach. I tried first to come at it with everything what I do in my stoicism and my centering myself and really coming after it with the deep thinking and the reflection. But then I attacked it from the aspect of you're only as healthy as what you put in your body. So I went to a completely organic and an absolutely 100%. I don't eat any processed foods. That includes any condiments, any, like literally anything. I make everything that I eat practically, even the sides. You know, I make my own ketchup. I make my, I mean, like anything that you can imagine that you buy in the store, I make it. And it sounds like, oh, that would be so much. And when I started the journey, I was like, there's no way I'll be able to do this. But I can tell you right now that once I reached about 90% of all off non-processed food or off processed foods, is the point where I realized I haven't taken my bipolar medication for a week. What's
Okay.
going on? It
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
I didn't need it, and then I was like, then I told my doctor I wasn't taking it. It's like, oh, you've been taking it too long. You can't be doing that. And I'm like, I'm just gonna ride it out and see how long I can go without thinking I need it. And so that changed my whole perspective of this, because I had gone my whole life thinking I will never get off. But because being on that medication, at least for me, it always feels, the best way I can describe it is like you just like have a thumb on the top of your head. You know, it's like it keeps you from ever reaching your full potential of what you can think. It confines your thinking, or at least it does for me. And I never really felt like myself. And now I just really feel much more creative and capable of doing more. Like it's not like I'm not being held back by something any longer. So I kind of have a unique perspective on that, because I know most people can't get to that point where they can actually walk away from it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's one big thing we can talk about too before we get to Maddie. Next, maybe the next episode or next time we get together is what we put in our bodies, right? In the mental health, the effects of, you go to the store, you get some beef, and it's processed with this, and it's added with this, and the stuff, right, that you may not think that triggers, that can hurt your mental health with the ingredients, the chemicals, everything they're putting in the food. And I think that's something we can talk about in a later date, because there's so much we can go on with that. So up next, we
Yeah,
got my
listen, hey,
favorite.
hey, Jimmy, really quick though, I did an episode where we talked about the additives in your food. There's a young lady named Amber that I interviewed that we were discussing exactly just that. Like the things they
Yeah.
put in your food, it's the craziest thing ever, man. Like it's like all this stuff they're putting in, you're cramming it into this stuff, and it's like you don't realize what it has on you. And to Massimo's point, it's really easy to do a lot of this stuff. Like I used to make my own butter and everything else, and it sounds crazy, but it's so much better. You notice a major difference when you start pulling away from all that other stuff that you just start putting in, because you're not reading half these labels. And if you start reading labels, you can't even pronounce half the things they're putting in these foods.
Exactly.
It's a crazy.
And I always,
crazy.
I used to say all the time, my aunt, who's a nurse, used to say, if you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't be eating it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So
That
Maddie,
easy to
let's get into your, let's get into, your issue and what you were dealing with, right? And how you now are being forced, right, to pick between your mental and physical health.
Picking between mental and physical health because of the extremeness of my diagnosis is a lifelong battle for me. When I was 19 and hospitalized for the first time, they put me on all these heavy duty medications, and I needed them. I have to take medication. I'm not saying don't take medication, but what I'm saying is I was there for a week and couldn't put my jeans on when I left, and food is regulated there. I'm saying I didn't wear glasses, and a month later I couldn't see. I'm saying that a year later my thyroid didn't work. And it's just my hair fell out. It's these ongoing battles where you're having to pick and choose, do I want my mental stability and well-being, or do I want my mental health? And like you guys were saying, I had lithium toxicity, and my heart was failing, my lungs collapsed, had brain damage, my brain was actively seizing, all because of my mental health medication. And I thought I had recovered after I had to relearn all basic functions and heal my body. And now I'm learning that I might have permanent heart damage from that. And I'm considered high risk for the medications I'm on for heart damage, along with the lithium toxicity. And my PCP was like, just go off some of these meds. But I can't, because if I don't have my mental stability, I can't go to school, I can't run my business, I can't go to work, I can't function in society, and I'm not happy. I'm not happy. And to me, I made a comment that people didn't like. I said I'd rather have a heart attack and die happy than be mentally unwell for the rest of my life and be miserable. And people
Thank
keep saying that's the wrong thing to say, but that's how I feel, because when I'm not mentally well, life isn't worth living to me. Um, and so I'm going on this journey, this cardiac journey now, and I cut out coffee. I'm trying pre and probiotics for gut health to regulate my cortisol, to help my heart. Um, I'm trying to eat more healthy. I'm working out at the gym sometimes, but it's just like this fine, delicate balancing act that will always be my life between mental and physical health.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the tough part. That's the hardest part of having to balance, right? Because for a professional to say to you, right, it's easy for a professional to say, well, just come off the meds, right? Come off the meds. It's easy enough. But they don't live with what you have, right? They don't have to deal with what the decisions that you have to make, right? It's so easy for those at the top, right, to say, well, just come off your medication, right? And if they're not living it or living with someone that's going through it, they have no clue. It's so simple for them to say, oh, just come off the meds. Just come off the meds. For me, my biggest thing was I remember going on one antidepressant that they were put me on at night to piggyback off the one I take in the morning. And I remember I hadn't eaten sweets, cookies, or anything for the longest time. But when I took this, the very next day, I was eating cake. I was eating cookies. I was at the bakery getting everything you could imagine. Shit I don't put in my body that I refuse to eat. But it was like this medication I was on, just I couldn't my appetite couldn't stop, but it was for sweets. And I don't eat sweets. So it was one of those where I called my doctor right away and I said, look, this isn't gonna work. So
Yeah.
she said maybe we can try something else. But I think that's the one thing of people need to come to the realization, right? And the next thing I'm gonna ask everybody is how do we talk honestly about medication, right, without creating fear around treatment, right? Because everybody thinks, that you can be on both sides. Some people may feel like, oh, medication, try to go the natural way in this, or try to go the big pharma way. But I find, right, and everybody has this, and I think it's the biggest thing when it comes to mental health is everybody responds to medication differently. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
deals with their how they live with it, right? And for some people, which is great, Massimo has gone to a natural, living life, basically going back to the simple days of when things were natural. And that works for him, right? That may not work for Pete. That may not work for me, right? But it works for him. And that's great of why we come together and have these discussions about, and showing different aspects of what works for different people. But I think everyone's mental health, whether it's medication or, treatment, is very different,
you.
you know? So, Maren, what do you
Yeah.
think?
The first thing that was coming to my mind also is that it is a little easier sometimes to come off of medication that has to do with a physical ailment versus a mental ailment. For
Yeah.
example, my husband was we live in the same household and live completely different lifestyles when it comes to health and fitness. My husband is does not eat anything processed. My husband is completely keto, like for the past 5 years. He's extremely healthy. He works out. He's everything physically that I am not. And before that, though, he was a heavy drinker. He stopped drinking. He hasn't drank in 5 years. He gave up every single thing, and he came off of blood pressure medicine. He was like, I came off my medicine when I, changed my lifestyle. You came off some blood pressure medicine because now that you're eating healthy, your blood pressure is, normal now. You don't need that blood pressure medicine anymore. But my mental health is not changing, although my weight may be changing or, things physically may be getting better. My mental health is not changing with that. So for me, physically and mentally, leaving the medication is a little bit different. Like I said, I unfortunately had to come off some for short periods of time, sometimes a weeks and sometimes up to a month. And I couldn't function at all. and I kept telling myself, once this eventually comes out of your system, because I can't go get it, there's no going to get $1,000 medication. Eventually it's going to come out and all these side effects may just go away. But for me, it never did. And it
Yeah.
never did. And no matter what I had tried, and it just, if I am not regulated by medication, I am just, I have borderline personality disorder. I'm also, bipolar, and I have ADD and I have PTSD. And these, it's just, I don't know. I've tried, and I just don't, I do therapy as well. I definitely am a total believer in therapy, and I need both. But I haven't found a situation where I can live without mental health
Your
medication.
medication. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Maren, do you do just talk therapy?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Okay.
haven't tried anything else.
Yeah. But talk therapy works for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I find, talk therapy works for me, but I'm
It's
finding
not
now
for
as I get
everyone.
older, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not for everybody, but I find now, like, after and I think you might find this as well, Merrick. Once you start talking to a lot of these people, right, in the mental health field, and
Mhm.
authors, and people that have, like Massimo's created the sober method, you're going to talk to people, and you're going to realize, right, there are so many different options out there than talk therapy. Like, for me, I think talk therapy was great, but when I realized for 16 years I was going to the doctor for the same problem, I'm like, we got a problem here. We haven't solved it.
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
very surface level, right? And hypnosis, right? Pete just had on what's his name, Craig Merriweather, right? I had Craig on.
Mm-hmm.
In hypnosis, as he was saying, it gets right to the point, right? You can have a couple sessions, 3 or 4, and we get to the root of the problem. And then once
Mhm.
we get to the root of the problem, it's on you to figure it out, right? Of how we get out of that problem. So it's powerful, but I also want to let people know, right? Medication's not always the enemy,
Right.
but it's not always the full answer either.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it does definitely come
Yeah,
with side effects, and especially physical side effects. I mean,
yeah,
I gained a lot of weight on certain medications. I
yeah,
mean, I had, like she was saying, hair falling out. There's a lot of different things. I've had a lot of, side effects physically on my physical health from medications as well. Nowhere near
yeah,
the level of Maddie's. But I just, if I do agree with Maddie personally with myself that I would rather die happy in a fulfilled life
yeah.
of a heart attack than to live in my brain unmedicated every day and have to face what I face unmedicated.
Yeah, you have to deal with those demons,
Yeah.
right? Without medication, And Pete, right before we get to you, right, and get your answer, I'm gonna go back to what you were saying about the commercials, right? Those
Exactly.
commercials keep getting longer and longer, right? Because then they get into, hey, this may cause, and then I listen, and it's like, you may have a racing heartbeat, tingling arms, you may die of a heart attack, you may shit your pants, right? And
Right.
it just
Yeah.
keeps going. It
It
just
just like
keeps
goes
going.
down real low too. It's like some
Yeah,
things you may experience is you're hearing voices that aren't there. It's like, wait, when I'm
yeah.
taking an antipsychotic, I shouldn't be
4 and
having
5.
these problems.
Right.
Exactly. And then sometimes I'm
But
listening and I'm like, did I really just hear that? What they just said?
hmm
Like, I don't know if I should be on this medication, right? So that's powerful. So Pete, what do you think about the question, right? How do we talk
I,
honestly about medication
I think
without
you're just
creating
gonna
fear
have
around it?
to. I think you're just gonna have to be honest with yourself that side effects are gonna be there depending on what you take. Are there some scary ones? Yeah. Listen to these commercials. I'm telling you. Listen to some of the things they're telling you. Oh, voices that aren't supposed to be there. Well, that's great because this next one will take care of it for you. But add a whole new ladder of symptoms, and it's like they're just kind of like you're gonna have to pick the bad or the good because like I was taking anti-anxiety medicines and I don't remember what it was called when they gave me, but it's like I was reading the side effects and my ex was like, you don't have to read the side effects. I'm like, yeah, let me read them because it says, oh, if you have a racing heart, you need to go to the hospital. I'm like, I'm standing here and my heart is going 1,000 miles an hour. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't good. Like, I don't like
Yeah,
this feeling that's happening. So I stopped taking it. I was like, yeah, I can't do this. This is too much. It's like someone just gave you an adrenaline shot to the heart and just went, and you just took off. And in me being diabetic as well, I have like 4 different medications I have to take just to try and control my blood sugar because like luckily my numbers aren't high as many people's are, but there's some side effects that you get with them. And I take Ozempic. A lot of people don't like the whole ideas of Ozempic and everything else. and things like that too. But it works for me is what matters at the end of the day. Like my blood sugar gets too high, I go over 300. I'm vegetable status at that point. I'm incoherently rambling to you. I'm not answering any questions. I'm passing out. Like these are all things that are reality that and I get people are scared, but at the same time, you have to understand that you take risks walking down the street every day too. Though
Yeah.
is it a scary conversation? It's always going to be a scary conversation, especially when it comes to like Maddie's situation with her heart. It's like these medications are there, like been around for a long time. You're going to see side effects. Like it's not an easy conversation. I don't think you can make it any easier. You're just have to be able to understand that these are some side effects you may take. Are you ready to take that risk really at the end of the day? Because you really, is it beneficial to you? Then I say go for it. If not, these are decisions you're going to have to make. Is it an easy conversation? Heck no. People that do cancer treatments, think about it, they're pumping chemotherapy and they're pumping radiation into their system. The things they go through, they're destroying their whole system to try and destroy this disease that's just eating them alive sometimes. And it's just, everything you do takes risks. Think about it. You walk down the street, you drive your car, all risks you're going to take. I mean, but the conversation just doesn't get easier, unfortunately. I mean, don't obviously don't fear monger it to people because it's just not fair to them. But yet at the same time, just understand that you're taking risk when you're putting a chemical into your body of, in a pill form or whatever you're taking, you're going to have risks, and those commercials, I'm telling you, just sit there and listen to what they're saying. Like, okay, well, it's great, fixed all these things, but then it adds all these new problems. But okay, it's all right. Never mind. The second commercial coming through will take care of the rest of them for you. Those same things that you just worried about, but add its own layer of things to it.
Yeah, and I think, Pete, what you said is what I love, right? And I don't think too many people do this. There you are, right? You get this new medication, you're sitting there and you're reading the pamphlet, right? And sometimes people just, you just rip open the package and take your medication. You don't read the pamphlet, right? So here you are reading it, right? And that's a big thing I think people should do is look at it,
for sure.
note the side effects, right? And then at night, right, once you start taking a new medication, write down if you're having any side effects. And if you are, right, like Pete said, your heart's racing, because we're going to get to Massimo and then Maddie, but then what I'm going to get into next is what medications can affect physically, right? And we're going to get into that, and we're going to ask everybody while on medication, if you're still on medication, what was one of the biggest changes that you've had? So Massimo, what do you think, about the question of fearmongering when it comes to medication, and how do we do it safely and talk to people about it?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is there's a lot of dishonesty that comes not only from big pharma, but I think even from the doctors. And there's a lot of backroom dealings that so many people are not aware of, in the handshakes that go on behind the scenes. The doctors are compensated for moving X number of pills of this manufacturer. And it doesn't matter what the mix of that pills is, as long as that manufacturer of pills gets this much, then they get a kickback. Those deals exist. And I think that what that does is it leads to a level of dishonesty in sometimes maybe overdiagnosis, but also, it can cause those things, but it probably won't for you, and so they downplay all of these things. And I think what Pete talked about and you just reiterated is it's so important to understand it. One of my early jobs, one of my first jobs actually, was working at a pharmacy, and I ended up becoming a pharmacy assistant. And so I saw this firsthand when I was younger, and people asking questions about drug interactions. And pharmacists today are so watered down from what they were 30 years ago when I was behind the counter. I mean, try to get a pharmacist a way to come and talk to you and actually counsel you on a drug today, and it almost certainly is not going to occur. And that's the whole point of the pharmacist, is they were supposed to be the stand-in that looked at all the prescriptions coming from the different doctors and said, hold on a second, and pick up the phone to a doctor and say, this might not be the smartest thing because this is going to cause anxiety, and you're prescribing an anxiety medication. I think this medication actually would be a better choice. That used to be the job of the pharmacist. Now we have computers do it. They don't catch everything. And they also don't really interact a lot with the patients. Pharmacists used to interact with the patient. Doctors used to interact with the patient. And that was a holistic system that worked. And today we have turned a pharmacist into nothing more than a pill counter, which is definitely unfortunate because they're highly educated individuals, but that's what commercial pharmacy has become, unless you go to a private pharmacy, which there are so few of those. But, you know, to circle back to what you said, Maren, is that it's very important to realize that we all are very unique chemically, and we're all made up in the way that things express themselves in chemicals in our body are going to be different from me than they are in Pete, from Maren, Maddie, Jimmy, all you guys. If we take the same thing, we're going to have a different impact on our systems. It's going to impact us differently. And I think that we ignore that at our own peril. And I think, but at the same time, it's just understanding where you come from. Whatever works for you, then that's what you should be doing. I mean, I do something that is unique and it works for me, but that doesn't mean that I discourage someone else from doing what works for them, because at the end of the day, our mental health ultimately impacts our physical health. Because if we feel good about ourselves, we will take care of ourselves physically. But if we are in great physical health but horrible mental health, eventually the physical is going to decline. So really the building blocks for all of it is mental health has to be stable for everything else in our system to work properly.
Yeah. And I just want to give a big, clap it up for Massimo on that one, because for anybody that doesn't believe that there's backroom deals going on or anything, right? There's 2 shows I want you to go watch. Painkiller, that's on Netflix, and also Dope Sick, that's on Hulu, right? That focuses on OxyContin. And the depths that the Sackler family went to push that drug everywhere, and swore to the pharmacists and the doctors there's no link to addiction. It's instant and it's a painkiller. And I can tell you right now, there's many people where I came from that got hooked on that are still hooked on heroin now and fentanyl and all that because of that pill. So when Massimo says, I think it's the biggest thing about the doctors and backroom deals, and doctors, a lot of them can't be paid, right, from big pharma. But one of the things that they can get is, hey, we're gonna send your family away to a convention that's 10 days down in Hawaii, and then in another month we're gonna send you 10 days down to St. Bart's, right? That's much more than any money can give you, as long as you keep pushing my drug, right? And the big thing I have now with medication is, it's been so much now, it's like they want you to double stack or triple stack. Well, you got to take this for your anxiety. And then if this comes on, start taking this one and then take this one. So it's like, I came in here on one medication, I'm leaving on 4, because this is going to combat this and this and this and this. So
bridge them together.
It's tough. Yeah, and you got to bridge them together and you got to stack them together, and they work better and they coincide with each other and interact because of the molecules. And it's just like, it's tough, right? So, Maddie, what do you think? What do you think, honestly, about medication, talking about it without creating fear around treatment?
I think for certain mental illnesses, medication is necessary, but it's a person by person case. And you have to educate yourself on your needs. You have to educate yourself on what a medication can do to you. Research the side effects, like people are saying. If a doctor is not being honest with you, find another doctor.
Yeah.
Because that's what I did. I was overly compliant, and this doctor was not explaining things to me, and I was like, pill, pill, pill. I thought pills were the end-all, be-all to mental health care, but the lesson I had to learn is it's bigger than a pill. Yes, I have to take medication, but healthy diet, exercise, meditation, yoga, mindfulness, grounding techniques, coping skills, there's so many other components, adequate sleep, sunlight, that go into mental health care. Like, a lot of people in our society want this quick fix, like, yes, just prescribe me something and I'll be all better, it's magically cured, but that's not the case. You have to put the work in too. You have to learn your coping skills, you have to take care of yourself, you have to get your sleep and eat correctly and move. So it's a balancing act of, yes, you may need this medication, but you have to put the work in as well.
I felt really judged, Maddie, because I haven't been doing that. Just kidding.
My bad.
Me too. I feel so too, because she said sleep, and I'm like, sleep? What's sleep? I don't.
I know,
kind of
that's
sleep.
exactly, that's what I
Vampire.
was really referring to. I haven't slept since I woke up Tuesday morning, so.
Yeah.
Oh, girl.
Which
Yeah.
is not really shocking because there was a girl I was talking to that has BPD that had the same situation. She'd be up for like 3-4 days at a time. And I was
Yes. And
like,
then you sleep.
and
Mm-hmm.
she, yeah, and then she sleeps, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, now I
Yep.
don't feel so weird about not sleeping so much, you know? And then my caffeine intake is always the topic everyone wants to talk about how many Red Bulls I'm drinking in a day. But, you
I'm
know,
drinking
I lose count
coffee.
after 3, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, it's okay. You know, Red Bull sponsor us,
Well,
by the way.
exactly. Well, here's the thing, Pete, right? Nobody says anybody to anybody that has 5 cups of coffee, right?
Mm-hmm.
True.
But
It's
if you
true.
have 3 or 4 Red Bulls, it's like, oh, you're drinking too much caffeine. It's like, you know what? Your coffee probably has more caffeine than I do. And in the Red Bull, right? In Red Bull, right? I just want to say you need to sponsor Pete versus Anxiety podcast and Uncle Jimmy's podcast because we will
Right?
be the official podcast of Red Bull. You can send me cases of it. Pete, you can send pallets of it, and
That's right. Send,
we
I'll
will
tell you
make
what flavors I
sure
want, Red Bull. I'm down.
we set it up, product placement. You'll have it in every feature, every
Exactly.
video I have. I will take every photo for the rest of my life with the can of Red Bull if you just sponsor me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not looking for money. I'm just looking for cans of Red Bull because the money I
Sounds like
Exactly.
it,
spend on
Bridget. I
Red
hear
Bull,
you.
Oh,
Pay me an energy. Pay me an
you know.
energy.
And the big thing, right? I think people, what gets lost in a lot of this is, and people need to realize it, and every one of us keeps stressing it. Every, there's no fix just for there's no certain fix to say, hey, if you take your antidepressants, you're going to be good. So if you're going to take, for me, lorazepam for my anxiety, lorazepam may not work for others. And I think the great conversation that we're having here is letting people know you have to find it on your own through the help with your doctor as well, what works for you and what doesn't work. If you're on a medication that you feel like is not working and making you feel worse, contact your doctor immediately and have that conversation. Don't keep pushing it off and say, oh, well, it's just a side effect, right? Because side effects then become reality where it's in your body now. You're maybe on it for 60 days. You're feeling worse. So don't push it off. If you're feeling like you don't want to be on that medication, I'm not saying come off of it right away. Speak to your doctor though, and go through the process of doing that. So what we're going to get into next is what medications can affect physically, right? We've all talked about weight changes, right? Many psychiatric medications cause significant weight gain or loss, increase in risk for diabetes, heart disease, and joint problems. Then you have metabolic disruption, blood sugar imbalances, cholesterol shifts, insulin resistant, right? A common with long-term antipsychotics and mood stabilizers. Then you can have cardiovascular strain, right? Certain antidepressants and stimulants can elevate heart rate or blood pressure over time, placing quiet stress on the heart. Bone density loss, right? Long-term antidepressants, SSRIs, have been linked to decreased bone density and increased fracture risk, a concern rarely discussed. Then you can have hormonal imbalances, liver and kidney stress. And this is the big one, right? Sleep disruption. Medications that sedate or stimulate can alter the quality of sleep, even when they improve quantity, affecting physical recovery and repair. I think that's a lot of things that a lot of us, on this panel suffer from,
Mhm.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And then nutritional depletion, right? Many medications deplete vital nutrients like magnesium, B vitamins, CoQ10, and zinc. They're very building blocks that the body needs to heal. And a lot of times people don't talk about this, the sexual health impact.
Yeah.
Libido
That's a big
function,
one.
hormone production, right, are frequently affected, often silently and rarely addressed in follow-up appointments because what man wants to talk about when his doesn't work,
Mhm.
And then last one is movement disorders.
yes.
Long-term use of certain antipsychotics can cause involuntary movements, muscle stiffness, and neurological changes that affect quality of life. So those are the ones we just went through, right? That I looked up, and that can affect how medications can affect you physically. But what I'm going to ask everybody here is, Maren, Pete, Massimo, Maddie, what is one of the biggest things that medication affected you physically, personally?
For me, I'm not even sure that I have so many things that are wrong that they don't
Yeah.
know why. So could it be for my medication? Absolutely. Could it be that I have 10 different diagnoses, physical diagnoses? Okay, whatever, absolutely. But within the last 5 years, okay, I've developed severe essential tremors in my hands. So I was seeing a neurologist for that, and I had to get on medication for that. So I was developing, tremors in my hands really, really bad from out of nowhere. I started having major, major heart rate issues. So, and they were saying it was probably the Adderall. I'm like, Adderall doesn't give me that. But so then they have to prescribe something else for the heart rate on top of that. So my medications I keep getting side effects that they keep saying are not from the medication. But the bone density thing, that's a big thing with me too. I have really, really severe, arthritis and some muscle density issues. But it's not knowing, is it because I neglected my physical health for so long and I'm overweight and my physical health is not the best, or is this some side effects from medication? I've been on medication since I was 13. I'm 45 years old. I'm just honestly not sure, but I do suffer from a lot physically. A lot more physical ailments than mental, although my mental are more disrupting to my life personally for me. But I just suffer from a lot. And as you were reading off the list, even though it's just a list you're reading off of, I was like, I wonder if that's for my medicine. I wonder if that could be for my medicine. Because there's so many things that you said that I do deal with and suffer from on a daily basis. But you see a neurologist, you see a cardiologist, you're seeing all these different types of doctors when it could just be the medication side effects. Because I'm on a lot of
Yeah.
like, I'm on 6 different medications when it comes to antipsychotics, anti-anxiety, antidepressants. I'm on like 6 different things. And it's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it. Jeez, you and Maddie can literally sit there and take a chart and start charting off what side effects you guys have alone just from the collection
Yeah.
between the two of y'all. Like, you ever seen that movie Grandma's Boy, the lady with the tackle box? That's in all
Uh-huh.
honesty, all jokes aside, that's literally what you and Maddie are dealing with. You got that tackle box of just drugs just sitting there, and you're just like, wow. But that's what you guys deal with on a daily basis. Like when Maddie and I met for the first time, she started telling
Same.
me her
Mine's in
story,
the
and I was
living
like,
room.
Pete,
I have a
Jesus.
huge bag that says drugs.
That's my med bucket.
That's what I'm saying.
Ma-
See what I mean? Like, it's
Maddie don't have
crazy.
a med bag. She has a med
Med bucket.
bucket.
Right?
Big Pharma, sponsor Maddie. Come on, Big Pharma.
Right?
We need Red Bull and Big Pharma in here.
That's what we need right now. Yeah. Yeah. But personally, my medication, like my Ozempic, sometimes I take it, it makes me physically ill. Like there's days I just don't want to do anything. And it's weird though, because it's like, is this supposed to help you? And you're injecting yourself with this chemical, and it's like all of a sudden I'll just feel completely like I'll have no interest in doing anything. Like I just don't feel good at all, like overall. And at first it was really bad. And then I got really bad, like sulfur, like indigestion type thing. So it's just unbearable at times. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and then there's another medication on the other hand where I'm not supposed to be in the sun a lot, but I live here in Texas. So, kind of hard to do there. Everybody tells you go touch grass, but it's like, what are the side effects? Literally lists like limit your exposure to sunlight. I'm like, well, now you know why I live like a mole man now, because it makes perfect sense because this is what my drugs are telling me to do. And it's like all these things, it's crazy though, because it's like, I need these to live, because if I don't keep my levels low enough, it's like I'm pretty much unusable to anybody around you. Like I couldn't see, look up or down. I become physically incapable of doing anything. But my Ozempic helps regulate my blood sugar. It helps me lose weight and gets that stuff down. But at the same time, like there's days, like I said, I take it. It's just I feel physically ill to no reason. It's just like I don't want to do anything. Food doesn't look appealing to me. It affected my appetite. So like it kind of messes with that too, because like I'll be hungry and I'll eat something and then it's like, yeah, I lose interest in food instantly. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And it's weird because I'd explain that to people. I'm like, listen, if I start eating and I stop all of a sudden, it isn't because you're a terrible cook. It's because this new medication I'm on, it's just like it starts screwing with you. Like it makes you fuller longer, but at the same time, it's like that fullness is just like makes you sick to your stomach. Like it's really uncomfortable. It's like you've overeaten, but you really didn't eat a lot. And I hate it. It's some days it's just rough than others, but I mean, it helps. Like I've noticed that I've lost a lot of weight. My numbers are going down, you know, and it's these things I have to do to constantly battle. It's a constant juggling for me. You know, like like our ladies here on the panel juggle all the time. But you know, like I'm juggling like my sugar levels because I constantly like I have water at hand always. I'm always drinking a lot of water, you know, and everything like that too. And everybody's like, "Oh, do you drink water?" I'm like, I drink more water than Echo the dolphin does at this point. You know, like you can't drink more water than I can. They're like, well, don't drink so much water. Do you understand how this works? Like I have to dilute my system so my sugars go down, you know, and it's hard because people that don't have it don't understand that it's a balancing act. And I watched it kill off my uncle, you know, he was very close to me and everything like that too. You know, the two of us are really close, and me and his wife, my godmother, when she passed, it was really hard too. But you know, to watch him just physically deteriorate, it's like I'm diabetic, and I'm like, oh hell no, I'm not going to allow that to happen to me. Because you watched him, the guy just literally erased away. Like it was like watching you know, that movie Thinner. Like the guy just went from just all the way down to nothing, and it was like you're watching him, and every time I see him, he just looked like worse shape than ever. But he always been a diabetic since we were kids, so I always watch him like prick his fingers and, you know, things like that too, which is kind of good now because now we have the little, you know, monitors you can use and things like that if you don't want to poke your finger and things like that too. But it's a reality. It's just like everything is affected at this point. Like I can't sleep some days. I don't sleep much hardly. And when I try to, it's like I wake up with like my anxiety sometimes will wake me up in the middle of the night. My heart will be racing for no reason. And I'm just high alert, like something's wrong. And it's like a shot of adrenaline to the heart. You're just going and you're like, you're looking around the room, you're up, and everybody's like, you're awake. I'm like, yeah, I'm awake. And like, you know, and everybody's like, when do you sleep? I'm like, what sleep? You know, and it was funny because when I was recording the show, me and the sleep doctor from the FBI were talking, and she was giving me hell about it too. She's like, you know, you need to sleep. Your job you do is a carcinogen. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. Because I work third shift, so I'm up all night. So like my whole balance is off. And at the same time, I have to put blackout curtains in my room to black out the room. So I think it's nighttime and trick my brain when I know it's not, you know, and that's the hardest part. It's people are like, oh, go to bed. Like, yeah, that's easier said than done. It's like telling somebody's having a mental breakdown and you're melting down and whatever, anxiety attack, panic attack, tell me to calm down. You're not getting through to me because I'm not listening to anything you're saying, you know? So
don't you think I would sleep if I could?
right,
I love
exactly.
to
Then it's
sleep.
like, oh, your caffeine consumption. I'm like, well, how do you think I get moving most days? Like I need the caffeine to go because I'm like, some days I'm dragging to get there, and people don't understand. Like people that just aren't there don't get it, you know. Like it's always great to tell somebody you have this great advice, but when you're in the situation, it's a whole other ball game, you know. Like it's great, I'm glad you want to give me advice, but then at the other side of it, have you been on that other side with me? No. Okay, then you have no idea. Just like Maren's BPD, like I said, I did a lot of research when I got involved with the girl that had it because I wanted to know what she dealt with. And holy crap, that list is just long. And then you just see demonizing it. And it's like, but you didn't research this, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's just me though.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, I tell you, the interesting thing for me is that I have a tremor in my left hand or left arm that will present itself, and I know that it's from years and years of taking antidepressants and to try to manage my bipolar disorder, and they got progressively worse over time. And you mention them to a doctor and like, well, that's possible that it could be a side effect, or, you know, but they don't really want to delve into it because everything else is okay. Right. And so how do you prove it isn't or is? But I will tell you one thing, it has been subsiding as I have been off of them longer and longer. But it also is it's a point of embarrassment because it looks like I'm like overly nervous, or I'll just start it looks like I have Parkinson's in my left arm at times, you know. And
mine
you know, how
can
do you
get really bad too.
you know, I picked something up, I picked a cup of coffee up the other day in public, and I couldn't hold on to it, and it just spilled all over I mean, and that's terribly embarrassing. But at the end of the day, at least I have everything else is okay. It did when I was on that, as well as you were mentioned, Jimmy. It certainly impacted my libido from time to time, where it'd be like everything just feels like blah, you know, and you you're not excited about anything, but you're not depressed about anything. It's just like you're just middle of the road forever. And that's so lame, really. I mean, it's just a boring existence.
You're here, but you're not living.
I'm present. I'm here, but that's it. And that's so discouraging. And that's difficult to manage. And so over the long haul, you've done permanent damage. I've obviously done permanent damage to the nerves in my left arm, and they're never going to come back. And that shouldn't be a thing. It just shouldn't be a thing. And it never was addressed along the way in any meaningful way that would make you feel like somebody cared.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maddie, what about you?
I've had most of these symptoms, including the movement disorder. I had tardive dyskinesia for a little while, which was irregular movements in my face. So I would go like not knowing it. I've had the tremors from the lithium. I think the hardest part was losing most of my thyroid, because that regulates so much in your body. My thyroid is underactive. I had very thick, full, amazing hair. Now my hair is terrible. I gained a ton of weight. It's very, very, very difficult for me to lose weight on these medications, coupled with not having much of a thyroid, which affects my self-esteem. I go to the gym, I eat right, yet but at one point I was 420 pounds. I did manage to lose a significant amount, but I just think it's like the little noticeable things, like weight gain, hair loss, tremors, involuntary movements that affect our self-esteem. And so many times I would go to the doctor, like the panel is saying, and I would have these movements and they would just say, it's just part of it. Let's put you on a different medication, but it's just kind of part of it. Do you want your mental or do you want your physical? And that's kind of how I was coached to, excuse me, to think for a really long time. But today I choose to have as much of my mental and as much of my physical as I possibly can. Like, I don't take those old school antipsychotics because of the side effects they did to me. I will only take new generation medication. The side effects aren't quite as bad for me personally. But I'm also, like we said earlier, trying to balance, but I don't know. I'd say they're all sucked really bad, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, and I think for me, like, Massimo was saying, one of the things for me was, sometime when I started taking this antidepressant, and I can't think of the name of it, but, some days before I started taking the medication, I would wake up, some days I'd be happy. I'd wake up some days I'd be, in a bad mood, or I'd know it was going to be a crappy day. Then I started taking this medication. I just woke up like a zombie. No feelings, no care of what's going around me, right? Even to the point of no care of if I even hopped in the shower, if I even showered before I went out, right?
Yes.
Or if I even brushed my teeth, or
Yes.
I just didn't care, because it was like I was a robot, where I took this meds and I was on it for probably 16 months, 18 months, till I got to the point where I think Massimo, almost to the effect of yours, where I stopped taking it for like a week or two, 7 to 10 days, and because I forgot. And I was like, oh shit, I woke up in a great mood today. Like, and I started feeling, my feelings, and started, being able to be like, hey, it's a great day today. And, oh shit, it's raining out, but that's not going to ruin my day. And back to my mental health of almost taking it back because I forgot to take my meds. And it was crazy, because I think conversations, right, about the side effects of taking your mental health med should be normal, and it shouldn't be taboo. Because we and that's the great thing about the communities that we have, because we're talking about this, and so many people, right, when it comes, Pete does mental health, we all do mental health podcasts and talk about it, because we find it near and dear to our hearts. And I think the more that people get honest with themselves and have these conversations, the best way to get out of it is having these conversations, right? And learning and growing, of what's happened in Maren's life, what happens in Pete, Massimo, Maddie's, mine, right? And I just want to say that, Red Bull.
There it is. I don't have my Red Bull with me. Sorry, sorry, Red Bull, you didn't supply me enough.
Red Bull gives me wings. That's all I want to say. So I got another one, right? So this is a little bit about meds and also about, mental health in general. So how do we help people, right, feel heard when they say, I don't feel like myself anymore? And this is a deep one. This is a tough one, I think.
Okay, so how do you make them feel heard? First of
So
all,
yeah,
hear them.
how do we help people feel heard when they say I don't feel like myself anymore? Because I think, yeah, we could all have stories, probably all of us on this panel, about how many times we've said that to somebody and they've said, "Oh, suck it up. You'll be okay.
Yeah,
Let's go grab lunch," avoiding the conversation, right? So how do we make
right.
people feel heard when they say that?
First of all, hear them. Listen.
Yeah.
If someone has made it a point to have a conversation with you that starts with, I'm just not feeling myself. Now, if they have made that step to bring that up, so hear them, listen. They might not need your advice, but they definitely need you to listen. They want to be heard. Let them speak. You don't have
Yeah.
to, you don't have to even don't give them your opinions. Don't give them your advice. We're not, professional. Just listen and be active listening, and then, help direct them to where they can go to find the help that they need or that they seek. Just tell, just
Yeah.
just be there for people. Just listen to their story, which is what we do, which is what we run podcasts for, is to allow
Exactly.
people a platform where they can openly discuss things like mental health, things that are sensitive and things that are just near and dear, to them. Just allow them to be heard. Give them a
Yeah.
voice, like the voice for the voiceless, Maddie, and be,
Yeah,
be that
exactly.
person.
Well, and that's the biggest thing you said, Maren, is being open, right? And
Yeah.
letting others be open, because oftentimes, right? I say it all the time. People wake up in the morning, the first thing they do is put that mask on, that fake person
Yep.
that they are, right? And when I was able to take that off, right, my mask, and look at myself in the mirror and become my true authentic self, I lost a lot of people along the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell people this nowadays: you want to be in my life, that's great, right? But I am only giving energy where energy is given to me. If you give me
Absolutely.
zero energy, you're getting zero energy back. Life's too short for me to waste energy, right? And for those that don't want to be in my life, good for you. It used to bother me, right? Because I always wanted that approval, the approval from
Yeah.
everybody, right? I always wanted to make everybody happy. I always wanted to take care of everybody. I always wanted their approval. But when I became my true authentic self, I said the only approval I need is the approval for myself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And that becomes powerful when you can look at, and I never looked at. And Maddie, when you sent me this, about the topic we were going to talk about, I never thought to myself the balance between mental health and physical and the choices we have to make. But I'm also learning, for me, the balance between physical and mental health. It goes hand in hand, because for me, for the longest time, I never had my physical health in check, and my mental health wasn't in check either. And then when I started getting my mental health in check and my house in order with with my mental health, then I started focusing on my physical health, and they both collided. And I said, hey, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Without physical, there's no mental. Without my mental, and I got to take care of both, because for the longest time I neglected both, my physical and mental. Because when it comes, and we can probably all say this on the panel, when it comes to medication, right? Everybody thinks you're cured because you're taking that medication, that pill, right? That that's just the first step. The next step comes the work that
Yep.
you are going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A pill does not do the work. A pill is just like a little boost. Like, you ever play Mario when you were little and you jumped up and got the coins, right? That's like
Mm-hmm.
taking the meds. You gotta get the coin, but then you gotta do the work. You gotta go save the princess in the end and jump up the
There
flagpole to
you
get the
go.
extra lives, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that you have to do, but the work has to be done. It's just like life in general. Your life is not going to get better until you start doing the work on yourself, not everybody else. Your life will look better if you start doing the work on yourself. Then you can be a better person for yourself and for others, right? And then you start seeing that community you start building. like the community we're building here. You know, I've met all you guys on different forms and platforms, but here we are all together, right? Sitting around like the old times, like around the kitchen table, having the conversation that we need to have,
Right.
that people neglect to have, you know, and that's what I love about the communities that we're building. You know, Massimo's into the podcasting world now. Pete's been there for, you know, generations. Pete's got like 60 years of podcasting. In 3 years, you know, Pete got 60 years crammed into 3 years. And, you know, Maren's freshly new like me and Maddie as well. But, you know, I find it often that for me, my podcast has been more therapeutic
Mm-hmm.
than
I just got
than
finished talking about that on my last
talk
podcast.
therapy. You know, yeah. And it's
It's
100%.
freeing.
you know, and it's just eye opening because I'm just sitting here talking to people that have been through a lot of the similar things I've been in life. And the one thing I've learned is not comparing my life to theirs or my trauma to theirs.
Right.
Because once we start doing that, that's when everything gets lost. You know, I had Yvette Murray on who said to me, we need to stop saying, let's walk a day in my shoes, right? What she says is, walk alongside me in this journey, right? And that's powerful. Grab my hand, walk alongside me. And that's what we need to do, right? And that's what we're doing tonight. We're grabbing each other's hands and we're walking alongside each other in this conversation. And so, Pete, what do you think about that question?
Okay, so let's think about this. What's the hardest part of a conversation? Now, I know everybody here is thinking instantly, wait, what do you mean? Think about it. We don't listen to the other person. We, just like Maren said, everybody wants to be the hero. We always have that hero complex. We always want to save them instead of just listening to when someone comes to you and says, hey, listen, I'm not feeling good today. The first indirect question out of your mouth should be, it's like, okay, so what's wrong? Get them talking. Suicide, whatever you want to put in that topic there, it could be the same thing. Is you've got to get them talking, make them feel heard, because they're coming to you to talk to you about these things, and they want you to know, like, hey, listen, I'm not okay. Your next question should always be, well, what's wrong? And see if you can go from there, you know, because that's the biggest problem in most conversations, that when we get into it, people don't listen. And that's why, you know, after like X amount I've done so far interviews, that's the one thing that constantly comes up. Oh, Pete listens to me. Because listen, it's easy to say and give you 10,000 different reasons to do things, and I can sit here, stand in a soapbox, but the hardest part is to listen to some of these conversations. Literally the hardest part is because you're listening to these people tell you their stories, and some of them are just like, wow. Like there's season 3 alone, we proved that one with the first episode with that girl. What she was telling us, she's like, I went downstairs, drank bleach, cut my and you're just like, this sequence of events, you're just like, wait, what the hell's going on here? You know, and let me tell you, for the first time ever, I was rendered speechless for a little bit, because I was like, hold on, wait a minute. She didn't just say that sequence of events. And it's like, it's the same thing when it comes to grief, though. It's like most times people don't want you to say anything. They just want you to be present. You know, and I think that's the hardest part people seem to forget, is to listen. Me and several guests have had this conversation. In fact, my latest episode just came out. That was the point of our conversation, was to listen. People don't want to listen. They just want to give you all the advice in the world. But listening is one of those skills that nobody seems to learn. It's like, okay, well, you're having a debate, but you're listening to the other person, but you're not hearing what they're saying. They're telling you, I'm not feeling okay. And your first thing is to, oh, well, you know, just cheer up, get better. Oh, you'll be fine. Oh, you're fine. You're just, it's all in your head. It's not all in my head. If I'm telling you there's something wrong, you know, and there's several moments for my life, you know, recently where it was, oh, listen, let's reschedule this conversation. Yeah, that doesn't work like that, unfortunately. When I'm telling you things and I'm on that edge and I'm telling, I think you need to understand this conversation is going to come, and it may not be the most comfortable conversation, but don't ever tell somebody that you can't listen, or say, I'll be there, and then you don't listen to them when they're talking to you. Because I think that's the biggest one that it's a problem too. It's like, we had a situation where a girl came on and she was like, yeah, someone told me, you know, hey, reach out to me something. So I did. Guy completely blew her off. I'm like, don't say this, because like, we're going to come to you and say, hey, listen, I got to talk to you about something very uncomfortable, and then tell me, well, I don't have time to listen. Then don't offer. Don't answer the phone. Say you're busy. Something. Don't pick up the phone if you're not ready to have that conversation, depending on what it is. I understand some of these conversations are not easy for you to have. I get it. Trust me, I've been there. I've had a lot of conversations where things have gone south really quick. But at the end of the day, just listen. It's really not that hard, you know. And I think that that's the biggest weakness in a conversation with people is that they always want to listen, but then they listen and want to attack. Like, you know, think of like couples. That's why a lot of problems come, because it's a constant. We want to attack each other instead of listen to what the other person's saying. Hey, listen, they're telling you something. They're not trying to attack you. They're just trying to state their point of view. And instead of you listening to their point of view, it's instantly you got to shut it down and be like, oh no, you can't do that, you know. Or the hero complex comes back and you want to suggest 10,000 things, and I don't want you to solve my problem. I just want you to listen to my thoughts that are going in my head. They may be a little chaotic, but I just want you to listen some days, you know. And there's some days they get pretty wild, but you know, and it's hard when you find that one person that can listen to you. It makes a big difference, because then you can unload all these thoughts out of your head, especially with me, anxiety. It's like I talk to myself sometimes and people think I'm having a self conversation. No, I'm talking to myself because I'm telling myself what these stupid ideas I'm coming up with that are reinventing in my brain, because I'm playing telephone in my own head at all times. Anything you tell me goes in and it goes through a whole cycle of the system and it comes back out something else. So, you know, a lot of times I use techniques like that, or write things down, or I'll do what I call downloading my brain. I'll just literally send people a random message or just thoughts going through my head. And it could be complete gibberish. And they're just like, oh, okay. And they're like, all right, I'm good. And then you're good to go right afterwards, you know. But listen is the key conversational piece.
Yep. And I think that's huge, Pete, because I've found, right, that if you do go to somebody and you want to have that conversation and they're not able to listen, right? And I'm not saying this to anybody to deter them from talking to somebody, but if somebody can't listen, they're not ready to hear the conversation, right?
Exactly.
They're not ready. And unfortunately, you may have to find someone else, because those people are only going to drive you deeper into that depression, deeper into that anxiety, because they're not ready, right? And they may not have the bandwidth to be able to have that conversation, and that's okay.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's why I think, you know, oftentimes we truly find that one person, right? And I don't mean unfortunately, but you know, it is, because you find that one person that you can talk to and you can count on, right? But sometimes, you know, we it can be overbearing what we're going through. It can be a lot, and for one person to take that on. But once you do find that somebody, it can be powerful, it can be relieving, right? And it can almost be better than any medication you can take when you get a hold of that person. They pick up and say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Everything okay? Right? And then they listen, you know. But you don't want to go to somebody and say, hey, look, I'm not feeling like myself. Well, you know, let's go shopping today, or let's go get some lunch, or let's go to, no, I just want to let it all loose, right? And let it go. So Massimo, what do you think?
Well, you invited 4 podcasters to respond to this question. If any of us said anything other than listen,
Yeah.
then none of us should have a microphone.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I will add that I think that it's important to be there for those guiding short questions in your listening, and not be thinking how you're going to direct that conversation, and what I would classify as active listening. Like, don't think what you're going to say next. Grab a hold of something that might be important in that, and then ask well, how did that make you feel? Or
Yeah.
why did that make you so angry? You know, just to continue to open them up and feel more and more comfortable in letting go of what they need to get off their chest. And when you get deeper into the conversation, you'll notice they'll tell you more, and they'll expand more on those points until, like, it's happened with me. And Pete, you brought it up, so I'm going to put an exclamation point on it. You finish a podcast interview with somebody and they're like, that was so amazing. Nobody has ever listened to me the way you just did.
Yeah.
And there's something that is really rewarding, at least for me as a podcaster, when I hear that. That's like, wow, I've done something that somebody else has never done for this person.
Yeah.
And that is so fulfilling, because they needed that. That person needed to be heard, and heard in a way that really was just, you sat there and you provided them a place that they could safely let go. And that's why I think it's, if you can do that for somebody, that's an amazing skill. And I think that we should all be present for everybody to do it. And again, it works in relationships very well too. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be anything about mental health. I mean,
Right.
friendships, marriages,
Yeah.
any type of relationship, even with your boss. Just sit there to play this trick sometime with your boss to say, "Oh, really? I didn't know that was such a struggle for us." You know,
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Oh my goodness, this is the greatest employee ever. He's listening to me."
Right. Right.
So
I'm gonna try that
anyway,
with my boss now. See what she says.
yes, try it out.
What does the boss say, Maddie?
So, Maddie, what do you think?
Yeah, so Maddie.
I just want to echo what everybody's saying. You know, as someone who does work in the mental health field, this is an important skill to have, is active listening. Not putting your opinions, not putting what you think they should do, not unsolicited advice. And if you would like to learn how to talk to people in mental health crisis, there are some great trainings out there that are nationwide, such as mental health first aid. There's child, youth, and adult. Assist is assisted suicide intervention training. It teaches you how to have the conversation around suicidality. I've taken it. I recommend it. It is okay to ask if someone is suicidal, and they will teach you how. There's a
Yeah.
lot, so QPR, that's a shorter training. So, you know, if you want to have these conversations, if you have a loved one with mental illness or whatever it may be, yeah, take the training, educate yourself. Education is key.
Yes, ma'am.
Good point.
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah, and so before we end tonight, right, we're gonna go from top to bottom, starting with Maren. Maren, where can everybody find you? Where's the podcast? You know, what is the name of the podcast? And when are you gonna have the round table on your podcast?
I want the round table on the podcast. Well, as of now, there are two podcasts. I have Unapologetically Maren, the Cornbread Chronicles, which can be found on YouTube and Spotify and Apple. And I'll be getting everything else soon. I had to update my Riverside app for a different feed. Now I will be going to all the other platforms too. And we just started the Truth Table, which is a group of four of us that they were three of my prior guests. And we kind of built a little family of crazy weirdos. And we decided instead of going to brunch, we were going to start a podcast together. And it's working out great.
Well,
And same thing, you can find us on YouTube and Spotify and Apple. And then we'll be on everything else very soon.
well,
And
that's
TikTok,
awesome, Maren.
social media platforms, of course, too.
Maren, that's awesome. That's one of those things I often talk about, right? Is having guests on, you know, similar to, you know, mostly, you know, everybody here minus Maren, you know, on my show, and you build these communities, right? And you branch off and you start another podcast, right? Because it's four other individuals who have, you know, three other individuals who have three other different communities, and you're
Yeah.
meshing and blending them together, right? And that's the powerful thing. And I think that's the great thing of what we're all doing here is, you know, Massimo, Pete, Maddie, Maren, myself, coming together with these communities, right? And building them from the ground up. These aren't something, these communities aren't something that just came about because we want a pat on the back or we want to hear ourselves talk, right?
Right.
This mental health is something that's near and dear to all of us. And it's a powerful thing. And I'm so glad, Maren, that you're building those communities and excited, you know, for what's coming with both shows. And so
Yeah.
we got Pete next. Pete, I've never heard of your show before.
Oh yeah.
What,
Oh my bad.
what,
Oh, yeah. Listen,
what,
you could.
what is the name of your show? And where can people find you? Pete has the best. Wait until Pete hears it. I try to replicate it. I can't. Pete has the final best closing there is. Pete, go ahead.
So you can find me. I'm Pete versus Anxiety. You can find me on X all the way down to TikTok, Spotify all the way down to Pandora Radio. I'm also the host of co-host of Voice of the Voiceless. Maddie and I do every Saturday. It drops. Pete versus Anxiety drops Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays currently. We just wrapped season 3, so if you guys want to start listening, you're gonna hear it all the way into June. Then I'm gonna take a break with season 4 returning coming July. So be ready. I've already started recording for that as well. You know, you can find me at PeteVersusAnxietyPodcast.com. I'm pretty much everywhere you find your podcast at this point. You know, and then this guy Jimmy down here, just don't listen to him. He's okay. You know, he's all right.
Season 4 of Pete versus Anxiety Pod is going to be brought to you by Red Bull.
Red Bull.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Red Bull gives you
once I
wings.
pop out with Red Bull, that's it, though. But listen, by the way, guys, go check out my partner, Psych Pal. I'm going to get Jimmy all the links, everything. If you guys want to check them out, I'll give Jimmy the link to put in the description of this episode. really great app. It's a great tool. It's really how it's more of an assistance thing for, when you can't and you need somebody like 2 a.m. and it basically what it does, it learns you. It's AI done right. It's really cool. It has a couple other features, like it can give you notes to your therapist, things like that. If you guys like what you see, there's a promo code. Use Pete at checkout for 20% off. Because I'm such a nice guy and I argued for you. I got you 20% off, and I'll get Jimmy all the notes and everything like that too.
Massimo?
Yeah, so you guys can find me, the Sober Method podcast, on all the platforms. Anywhere you want to listen to your podcast, I'm sure you'll find me there. And my episodes drop on Wednesdays. And I also do a bonus on the second Friday of each month, a perspective episode, which talks with family members who have lost someone to addiction or to a mental health crisis, moms, dads, grandparents, friends, to give the other side of the equation that we don't often hear in all of the conversations that we have with those that we interview and speak with. So
that's powerful.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's where you can find me. Sobermethod.com can get all the links there as well.
Perfect. And up next, we have the host of the award-winning Voice of the Voiceless.
Yes. I co-host Voice of the Voiceless with Pete. It drops every Saturday on all your streaming platforms. My nonprofit JED support group can be found at jesupport.org. We're on all social medias. And then I advocate on my personal page, Maddie Andrews or MattMatt88 on Instagram. You can pretty much find me anywhere. My email is on my website. If you need a listening ear, you need help understanding something, whatever it may be, I'm here for you.
That's awesome. And I am everybody's favorite uncle.
Yeah,
Uncle Jimmy's podcast.
My least favorite uncle right now, currently, so it's okay.
Uncle, well, that's just because you're the co-host, and you get mad because you're not the host of the Voice of the Voiceless.
Sorry.
So I am Uncle Jimmy from Uncle Jimmy's podcast. You can find me everywhere. We do video exclusively on YouTube, and I wish I had a spiel like Pete does. You can find me from A to Z to boom. I don't know how Pete does it, but that's awesome. I'm on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, wherever you can find.
We got to work on that, guy. We got to work on that.
Yeah, we definitely got to work on it. Wherever you can stream, I'm there. So, in closing, right, I want to tell everybody, you did not fight this hard for your mind just to lose your body along the way. You deserve to be fully informed. You deserve doctors who see all of you. You deserve to ask the hard questions, not out of fear, but out of love for yourself. Because healing was never meant to be a trade. It was never supposed to cost you your strength, your vitality, your wholeness. So advocate for yourself. Get the labs done. Move your body even when it hurts. Eat like your life depends on it, because it does. And if something feels wrong, trust that. Your body has been speaking to you your whole life. It's time. And the big theme tonight was we all need to listen. So it's time we all started listening. You all worth the full picture. Every part of you, your mind, your body, your spirit deserves to be well. Not just surviving, but thriving. Guys, Maren, I appreciate you joining me. Pete, I appreciate you joining me as well.
Jimmy, listen. Let's sign it off the right way, okay? Listen, don't ask how your day is. Say, hey, how's your mental health?
Pete, as always, Pete knows how to close out a show better than anybody. Massimo, I appreciate you joining me, and I can't wait to have you back. And I told you, you're welcome back every Wednesday that we join. You can come whenever. Awesome. And my favorite, Maddie Andrews. I appreciate everybody joining us. I appreciate everybody joining the live.
Waving it.
Hey, maybe next week I'll show up with a Maddie t-shirt.
There you go.
Or a Maddie hat. Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Yes,
so I appreciate everybody joining us. I appreciate, the 4 years, I appreciate you guys coming on, spending some time with me, right? Spending some time with the listeners, because that's what it's all about. If you don't have your mental health, right, you don't have your physical health, and vice versa. So I appreciate you guys coming on, sharing your journey, sharing your life. And Pete, you are my number 2 favorite, not my number 1.
Wow.
And I just wanted to remind you that.
I'll remember that.
Okay?
I'm glad you just
and don't forget that season 4 of Pete vs. Anxiety podcast is going to be dropping in July, sponsored by none other than Red Bull.
That's what I'm saying, right? Come on, Red Bull,
Give us
sponsor us.
those
Let's
wings,
go.
Red Bull.
Red Bull, please give Pete wings. Not that he needs them, because
Right?
Pete has wings. Pete can go from 0 to 100.
Yes.
So I appreciate
Yep.
everybody joining. And hey, before we go, anybody got any last thoughts?
Always
Talk
check
more
on your
about
strong
your
friends.
mental health.
Hold on. What was that? Pete,
I
you
said
go
always
first.
check on your strong friends.
Always
Exactly what Maren
check on
said.
your strong friends. Yep, because those are the ones that are never checked on.
Yep.
Pete, anything else in closing, Pete?
Talk about your mental health more. I can't say this enough. Talk about your mental health more. We're dying too fast for this, guys. Come on now.
Yep. It doesn't make you any less of a man to talk about, right, Pete?
Exactly.
Massimo, what do you got, pal? Final words.
Final words. I think if you don't have someone to talk to or you trust and feel comfortable with, then find someone, because that's the most important thing, that you have someone you can lean into anytime that you are struggling.
Yeah. Maddie?
Mental health recovery is very much a real thing. Use your resources, use your coping skills. We can go into remission. We can feel better. You deserve to feel better. You matter. You have purpose. You're important. So love yourself.
Perfect. And I'm going to close out with one of my favorite tools that I added to my toolbox long ago. If you are struggling and you're going through it and you feel like you don't have anyone you can reach out to, you feel like you don't have anyone you can trust, there is a number you can text or call, 988. 988 I've used many times. It's been a lifesaver for me, and a lifesaver for many, right? And I want to give a big shout out for all those that work at 988 for their tireless advocacy, for their tireless, showing up, volunteering for the job, and being there when somebody calls, because they've saved my life many times. And I'm not afraid to admit that I use 988. So you can call, text it 24 hours a day. I used to do it at 3 o'clock in the morning when nobody was awake and I didn't want to call anybody to bother them, especially that early in the morning. But again, like Massimo said, if you do have that special person you can reach out to and you have that connection, reach out to them. But if not, 988 is a great tool. You can text it, you can call it 24/7, 365. Big shout out to everybody for joining us. Go check out Maren, go check out Pete, go check out Massimo, and definitely go check out my favorite, Maddie Andrews. Everybody, this is Uncle Jimmy signing off. Peace and love, peace and love. Uncle Jimmy out.
Wow.
I just had to get